Tragic story next in The Guardian. But Nick, does The Guardian have an agenda on this one?
Of course they do, Andy. What a ridiculous question. So this is Jordan Neely, as I'm sure you've seen, and the headline they've gone with is "Man Killed by Rider's Chokehold Was Talented Dancer." And of course they leave out the fact he was arrested 44 times. So he was killed by this person putting him in a chokehold. I'm sure you've seen the story. He was getting violent and threatening. And The Guardian is doing a kind of puff piece hagiography on him, trying to sort of say he was just a perfect, great guy. Look, he had problems. His mother died. He went off the rails, and it is very sad. But he did have an open felony charge and a warrant for his arrest for assaulting a 67-year-old woman. He was violent. He was threatening violence. He'd been arrested 44 times, as I say. And The Guardian want a new George Floyd. And it's kind of shameful the way they're trying to make this happen. They want a world... And you read the piece, absolutely ludicrous, all about how amazing and great he was and how perfect he was. The Guardian want a world where the criminal is the victim, and they side with the criminal. In a world where you can't stop a criminal, or you're the problem. And
it's very. I mean, look. Of course, it's horrible when anyone dies, and I don't want to get into the debate about whether the guy who held him in the chokehold should have, used excessive force. I don't know what happened there. I wasn't there, and there were 3 men involved. But it has been fascinating, Josh, watching on social media people just playing old clips of him doing Michael Jackson impersonations, as though that's all this was. It was a Michael Jackson impersonator, lovely guy. He had, like Nick said, been arrested 44 times. There's also footage of him just attacking people.
Yeah, and swearing at them and calling,
These people were in a difficult position where they had to try and restrain him because he was threatening people. Yeah. Obviously...
Someone posted online that he'd pushed them towards the tracks.
No, that's a... Oh, well, there's...
They posted an account saying...
OK, well, there's someone else... This just also shows the misinformation out there. Right. Someone put a video of a man pushing someone into a train, and they were saying, but actually it turns out it wasn't him. So there is this stuff out, but
we don't know, do we?
No, we don't know. And what's really tragic here, as you say, his mother was actually murdered, and he had mental health issues.
Clearly,
and
he was failed as well.
And he was failed by the state. Yeah. But, supposedly he went to jail for 4 months for attempted kidnap of a 7-year-old girl, pulling her down the street.
Right.
Like, he had mental health issues. He wasn't... It doesn't sound like a great human being, and he obviously...
Well, it certainly doesn't look like the 3 guys who restrained him were trying to go out of their way. They were trying to restrain him because they were scared of what he might do to someone.
Well, that's it. But the other thing, just to read this, but to just make it more about what the article is like they don't mention any of this other history. They go on about, like, someone who met him, his neighbour, and someone saying, oh, he was a nice person, he wasn't aggressive or violent, when the evidence was he could be aggressive and violent.
So that's an interesting question, though. Why doesn't The Guardian mention those factors when everyone can easily access
Well, that's the thing. Nowadays, you can access it.
Right, that's my point.
This is another thing about being Pete. This reminds me of that terrible WeSpar article that they wrote 3 years ago, where they sort of almost pretended this thing of this black woman who was, and her 6-year-old daughter, who were exposed to in this sauna by supposedly a trans woman. Turns out it was a sex offender. But the article basically made out that she was inventing it.
And it was a hoax.
There was a hoax and all this stuff. But anybody online could see the other narrative.
And that's the question, Nick, isn't it? It's like, I understand in a world without the internet why newspapers like The Guardian that have an activist agenda would misrepresent, because their readers probably won't see the other stuff. But these days, we can see they're lying, or at least misrepresenting.
I know, but I think they're just banking on creating enough noise. Anyway, we've seen AOC online. She's saying this guy's a murderer. He hasn't had any kind of trial. She's stoking division. I think The Guardian is going for the same thing. They've got their guy. They've got their narrative. I mean, one of the people restraining him was a black guy as well. That doesn't matter. They've made it into another... Exactly. It's another race war. People are so sick of it. They're sick of certain races being demonised, certain races being deified in this crude way. It's not reality, and this is a disgusting
and this is just a tragic story, however way you...
Of course it is, but it is another reminder that you almost nowadays, from whatever you get your news source, you have to also go and check that news source.